Had this been some ISIS insurgent who snuck in through the southern border illegally and nobody knew who they were, okay, now maybe we have a story that makes sense. But a former CIA asset? Yeah. Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and I want to wish everybody out there a happy Thanksgiving. Hope you have a great turkey day with your family. Also, our thoughts and prayers go out to those National Guard soldiers and their families that underwent that horrific attack in Washington, D.C. yesterday. Obviously, that's what we're here to talk about. Now, regardless of what we talk about in this video, that was absolutely terrible. It's unacceptable on all accounts. Now, I didn't jump on the story yesterday right away like everyone else did because I wanted more information on who the attacker was. It was going to be very, very important in understanding what this whole thing is about. And I'm glad I did. Because of the information we've gotten this morning, this has made everything 1,000 times more suspicious and more complex. And the reason for that is that the attack was carried out by an Afghan national who wasn't just some Taliban who snuck on a refugee plane. This was a CIA asset, a part of the Kandahar Strike Force, who worked with guys like me, Army Special Forces, Green Berets, the CIA. Okay, so I'm intimately knowledgeable about who this demographic of person is. So you're not going to get the mainstream media stories here. So you might be upset about this video. That's fine. I'd encourage you to watch it anyway, because I do kind of know what I'm talking about with this. All right, so don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, helps the channel. Let's jump into this thing. Let's break this whole thing down if this story makes really any rational sense. All right, so this is extremely important up front. All right, so again, this is what it says. CIA Director Radcliffe confirms the Afghan T-word shot National Guardsman Ramanullah Lakanwal previously worked with the CIA as part of a partner force in Kandahar, Afghanistan. That's exactly where I worked. The individual and so many others should have never been allowed to come here. Okay. Now, before we explain why this story doesn't make any sense to begin with based off of who the attacker was, I mean, and regular viewers of the channel will already know this, but I have been calling that this exact thing was going to happen for 3 weeks, from National Guard soldiers being killed to an Islamic terrorist attack coming soon. And I'll show you the clips right here, not as an I told you so, but to show you that I have been paying attention to what is going on around me outside of just what Fox News or CNN shoves down our throats. So I have been against National Guard troops being deployed into cities, and I said the exact reason why here.
I did a whole video on talking about why I don't think National Guard troops should be deployed to the cities. So you're just sending these kids that got no idea what they're doing down into super dangerous situations with live ammunition. And all I see for that, the potential is what goes wrong? Shit gets crazy and a soldier gets killed.
Yep.
Shit gets crazy and a civilian gets killed.
So my worry was that, of course, yes, we're sending these National Guard kids, basically, who have, keep in mind, no police authority whatsoever, so they can't actually do anything, to go patrol the streets of Chicago and Washington, D.C., and basically just wait there as soft targets to get shot by somebody, which is exactly what just happened. Not only that, but ever since the hysteria on Fox News over Zohran Mamdani, the Muslim jihadist, winning as mayor, I told you guys that this is exactly what was coming. American support for our greatest ally is basically non-existent. They've lost the plot. The paid influencers isn't working. The mainstream media mouthpieces isn't working. The conventions they're putting on. Ben Shapiro attacking people. None of that's working. So we have to go back to old reliable. And what's old reliable? Ah, that's right. Bibi says the 9/11 attacks were good for our greatest ally. Yep, and not only that, we talked about this as well. And what really concerns me, and I see a lot of other people starting to be concerned about this too, as I've seen a lot of clips and memes going around, and I'll put one up right here that we can look at from my buddy Aaron from Aaron Loves America, is this.
I think we need to look at the positives with Zohran Mamdani getting elected out in New York City. The next false flag at NYC is going to hit different when you have a Muslim mayor that calls for jihad.
Yes, it would, wouldn't it? Could you imagine another T-word attack in New York City while Mamdani is mayor, carried out by Islamic extremists, of course, backed by who? Iran, I'm sure. So, maybe I just got lucky, right? But to me, this all seems so obvious based off of the conditions and what we were seeing in the country and the media and everything play out in the last couple weeks. And let's talk about this. Let's talk about how much sense this whole story actually makes, okay? All right, first, let's talk about who this guy is and if this makes any sense right up front. Okay, as we talked about before, this was an Afghan national who was part of the Kandahar Strike Force working with the CIA, probably Army Special Forces as well, fighting against the Taliban and ISIS for years alongside the United States. And I'll tell you, because I worked with these guys, the vast majority of these guys absolutely hated with vitriol passion the Taliban. A lot of these guys have had their entire families slaughtered by the Taliban. And most of them loved America and loved American soldiers because they had been working alongside us for years and years and years. So this same person then, when the war ends, he's able to get asylum as a refugee for assisting the United States through the military and things like that. And then he moves to Washington State, lives there for 4 years, and then decides randomly to hop on a plane, fly out to Washington, D.C., and carry out this like 10-plus year, 7D chess long game plan where he finally carries out his plan and shoots 2 National Guard soldiers in the street. When at any point downrange, he could have shot people like me in the back on target and all these different things. It's just the story itself right out the gate doesn't make any logical sense. Okay. Had this been some ISIS insurgent who snuck in through the southern border illegally and nobody knew who they were, okay, now maybe we have a story that makes sense. But a former CIA asset? Yeah. But to make things even more bizarre, because the internet is so fast at investigating things like this now, it's almost impossible to carry out false flags, is we saw this same type of thing with the Charlie Kirk assassination, is people started doing the Google search history trends, okay? And they looked up Ramanullah Lakanwal in Washington, D.C., randomly just a few hours before this attack was carried out, after his name had never been searched ever in Washington, D.C. It's got, 36 searches hours before the attack. Now, maybe that's all by coincidence. That name was also searched. I've seen multiple new ones of this too in Israel right before the attack as well. Not that there's any, correlation between all of these things, but you got to start looking at this going, what's really going on? And I think one of the biggest red flags to me was Donald Trump's immediate response minutes after the news broke on this, which was this. Trump has ordered an additional 500 National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. That seemed very bizarre to me. First of all, again, like I said, National Guard troops have no police authority. They can't do anything to begin with, but just walk around the street for optics. And now a lone gunman carries out an attack and you immediately deploy 500 more soldiers to go walk around the streets? Why? It just looks like a move towards, drumming up hysteria and fear as another marching order towards martial law or something. And it's just bizarre. It doesn't make any sense. Because again, the National Guard can't do anything. And this all comes off the heels of which I've been talking about for 3 weeks, of this Fox News drummed up Christian Zionist hysteria about Islamic extremism that nobody had talked about since 2021. And out of nowhere, when Zohran Mamdani is going to become the mayor, that's what becomes the biggest talking point. Also, alongside the fact that we talked about that our greatest ally is literally saying in the Knesset that the number one way to regain American support is through Islamophobia. And then all of a sudden, we see this. We see the Dearborn protests where we see a Jewish agitator go down and incite violence between Christians and Muslims.
Brings you out here today?
We want to make sure our children can grow up in the same America that I grew up in. White Christian country. Our founding fathers' blood soaks this land, not for Muslims and Islamic jihadists to play their prayer calls where our children walk to preschool.
I'm sorry, I just had to make another reminder for you guys. In case you weren't aware, the man that is holding the giant cross trying to support Christianity, his name is Jake Lang. Now, the most interesting trait about Jake is he is able to blend in seamlessly with wherever he is. Because for some reason, he tries to hide and remove every single trace he has had. For instance, kissing the wall in Israel. As a reminder for you guys, bragging about his sister serving in the IDF. Jake Lang is Jewish, he is not Christian, who is trying to cause conflict between Christians and Muslims while he is Jewish. Do you see what is going on?
So again, people are paying attention. It's not just me. I probably had 15 of my buddies, special operators, all text me yesterday, all with the same question. False flag, question mark. Not a single guy I've worked with thinks this story makes any actual sense, given the context of what's been going on in the country right now. Now, is it possible that this was a disgruntled Afghan national who just happened to work with the United States for this whole time and became a refugee and asylum and is living in Washington, and for some reason, even though his asylum was granted in 2024, last year, he decided he had some grudge against America and carried this attack out? Yeah, I guess anything's possible. But does it make any logical or rational sense in this specific situation? No. You have to start asking yourself, why were National Guard troops just optically patrolling around Washington, D.C. when they can't do anything anyway? And then it just so happens that after this massive drum up of Islamic hysteria, that an Islamic terrorist shoots 2 of these National Guard soldiers in Washington, D.C., down the street from the White House. I mean, maybe it's all organic. Maybe. It sure doesn't feel organic. And immediately, everywhere you saw on the media, Fox News, Ben Shapiro, fawning over themselves to get up and scream about, oh, evil Islam, right? And again, I've said before, like, I don't think Islam is conducive in Western culture, right? And that's not just about Islam. I think that about any culture that's not American culture. But again, is this story making any sense to you guys? The timing of it, the optics of it. Also, what else is sort of going on that people are starting to forget about and is not being talked in mainstream media anymore? Oh, that's right. Those Epstein files that were supposed to come out. I thought we were potentially going to invade Venezuela. Or I said this before on the channel through like the last 3 weeks, that it was either going to be a false flag attack or an invasion in Venezuela. That's what was going to be the massive distraction from this. And sure just kind of feels like that's what we're looking at right now. But, you know, thank God, this is the guy that's on the case that is going to bring us the ground truth to this.
Of our brave members of the National Guard and the Department of War were brazenly attacked in a horrendous act of violence. They were shot. They're in critical condition. As you can see behind me, we have assembled the full force of both the federal and state and local law enforcement agencies to bring bear all of our resources to make sure we find the perpetrators responsible for this heinous act. And make no mistake, they will be brought to justice.
Great. Kash Patel is on the case. Sure, we're going to get this thing figured out. And so what also did we see what happened? Yes, Stephen Miller came out immediately after and announced that the Trump administration is looking to revoke all refugee and asylum status from Afghan nationals. Let me say this to close out the video, and I don't give a what anybody thinks. I am not going to play the game of all of these Afghan nationals and all of these Muslims are evil that are in our country because of this attack. We played that game with 9/11. And I will say that because I went and fought the war in Afghanistan. As a Green Beret, I didn't have 100 infantrymen next to me. I had 11 of my teammates next to me and typically 60 Afghan nationals who fought alongside me and fought alongside my brothers, my teammates. Some of them were shot, blown up, wounded, killed in the line of duty with us. And not only that, everywhere that I stepped on mission, guess what? 3 or 4 Afghan nationals made sure that they stepped on that spot and on that ground before I did, so that they got their legs blown off before I did. Every night, Afghan nationals and Muslims risked their lives to protect me and my teammates as we conducted counterterrorism operations against the Taliban and ISIS. We live with these people, we work with these people, and so to now say, oh, we're gonna terminate the refugee status of interpreters who risk their lives night in and night out alongside us. Afghan special forces whose entire families have been slaughtered, by the way, and they've managed to get 1 or 2 people out and got to the United States after they worked with and fought alongside United States Special Operations for some of them over a decade. No, you're not going to get me to automatically hate these people. And you're not going to get me to hate them just so that you can drum up support for a foreign country that, by the way, didn't send a single soldier and didn't drop an ounce of blood while all of these Afghan nationals fought alongside us. So no, I'm not going to play that game this time. You can play that game if you want to. You can buy into that hysteria if you want to. I'm not going to blanket hate a group of people who supported and fought alongside the United States for 2 decades. And if you have a problem with that, I don't care, because you probably didn't go fight the war alongside them. So, yeah, who knows what we're going to find out with this. Again, now that we know it's a CIA asset, the CIA is involved. There's no reason to think that we're going to get any truth. What we are going to see is, I can promise you, watch for it in the next month forward. From today until then, all you're going to see on Fox News, all you're going to see on the mainstream media, the Daily Wire, is this drum up of massive Islamophobia and the fears of Islamic extremism. And it's here, and we got to go in and send the National Guard into Dearborn, and we got to deport all these people. And if you support that, that's fine. You can support that. But again, it's the same playbook. They're running it on repeat because they think you, the American people, are too stupid to pay attention and to see what's going on around you. So, again, a lot of you probably are not liking this video. That's fine, but you don't come to my channel to get the mainstream media perspective. So, that's going to do it for this one. Again, I hope you all have a very happy Thanksgiving, and I will catch y'all tomorrow for our live stream. Take care.